Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And today's a very special show. Please prepare yourself. This is a topic you've all been searching, trying to understand your whole life, happiness. We've got Nikos here, whose name I have mastered pronouncing, and a special guest today. This is somebody who you may know is the CEO of the Ayn Rand Institute. And not only that, but he doesn't get enough credit for this. I think he invented rollover minutes at AT&T. You young people don't even know what that is, but used to be talking on the phone wasn't free and you had a certain amount of minutes. You kids today, you have all the data you need. You can talk on the phone for free, basically, and you don't even use it. You just text emojis. Emojis, the lowest form of communication. You all make me sick, but I'll calm myself down now because we're here to talk about something positive. Happiness, please, everybody. Thank you, Marilyn, for the $3 super chat. Can anybody top that? I doubt it, but let's see. Tal Tsfany, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, after my intro, we've got about 2 minutes left of the show. So why don't you tell us, what is happiness? Is that a good place to start?
Wow. Yes, it's a great place to start. As you know, good philosophers always start with definitions, right? Epistemology. And what do we mean when we say? I love Rand's definition of happiness. It's so concise and it has so much in it that it almost begs unpacking. And that's what I did for many, many months and years. Happiness is a state of consciousness that proceeds from the achievements of one's values. So the way I love to look at this definition is backwards. It means that it's a result of a process, right, which is achieved by you pursuing a thing called a value. And it means that you cannot grab and hold on to happiness. It comes the same as money. You cannot make money. You have to do something to make money. I cannot grab, money out of somebody's pocket. I need to make it. So the same as that's the way I think about money. Now, the prerequisites that are implicit in this is like, you have to choose your values. And then it begs the question, what is the value? What is this thing that happiness is made out of, that the achievement of gives me this prolonged state of consciousness that we call happiness? And that is, by the way, for me, even a more complicated question. What is value? So it's anything that one acts to gain or keep is what Rand is saying, but it's very abstract and very generic. It could be, my iPhone is a value, right? But my, skills in car racing is a value to me. And the computer in front of me and the friendship with you is a value to me. So it's different levels of abstractions, different parts of my world and domains of values that I think about. So I think that the question, what happiness is, actually evolves into a question of what value is, because the pursuit of those things gives us the state of happiness. And for me, if you ask me how I experience happiness, for me, it is a prolonged state of, it's not that I'm going through ups and downs. I get frustrated and I get, somebody gets on my nerves, and no, it's an elevated state where I tell myself, Tal, you're good at living. You know what you want and you're pretty good at getting it. It's always a process of, what do I want today? Maybe it's more or something different than what I wanted yesterday. And, but the way I experience it is that I'm grabbing life by the horns and I'm leading it. It's not leading me anywhere. It's very purposeful and conscious. So, and I'm happy to get out of bed every day and to do more of what I choose to do. And, one of my heroes is Steve Jobs, because I think not everything that he did, but essentially he lived a happy life from the sense that he always knew that his life is his, not anyone else's. And the only thing that matters is what I want. And knowing and contemplating, I don't know if you know the story about how he chose a sofa for his living room. It took him 7 years to decide which sofa to buy. That's how introspective he was in deciding what I truly want. So for me, that is it. It's knowing how to live, appreciating this thing in our head, our consciousness, and how it operates, how it interacts with the world, and really observing it and observing yourself and seeing what you react to, what makes you happy, what makes you interested, what do you lose your time doing, It's like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And holding on to those things, because those are the values that really drive our life. Unfortunately, there's so much things coming from the culture and our education. It's like, either you shouldn't want things or what you want is not important. There's a whole talk that Ayn Rand gave about, just all you have to do to a kid to say want. And it's great to want and to fantasize about, Buck Rogers and whoever, this is what happiness is made out of. So this is how I think about happiness.
So here's a question, Tal. So from what you've said in various occasions, you went through a period where you revised in a way your approach to happiness. And the question is, why did this happen? You were successful in terms of you had money, you were in tech, you had a beautiful family. So what made you at some point to say, okay, I need to rethink these things? And what put you in this path? I want to understand happiness better, because you had what most people would say, that's happiness.
Atlas happened. That's what happened. I opened that book and it hit me in the head, and it opened a door to a much deeper understanding of life. I was living in a very, I wouldn't say very shallow. I was always a pretty thoughtful person. So I developed deep hobbies and loves and things. But you're right. I lived a life, a postcard life. It's like, oh, I got the money, I got the house, I'm paying the mortgage, I got the beautiful everything. But why I'm waking up with like, I don't want to go to work. And, this week I feel good, but that week and periods of, I wouldn't call, I was never close to a depression, but lows, just lows, nothing matters. I don't want to go. And I think that 99% of the people around you just live. They wake up in the morning and they lean on life in an automatic way, and they just do whatever happens and whatever is presented to them as opportunities, as jobs. And, they never consciously, why I know that? Because I know that in order for me to contemplate what I really want on simple things, not what I want to do in life as a career, I sit for hours and write. I got hundreds of notebooks filled with introspective notes about, why do I want this? Is it what I want? Right? Just to go deeper and deeper. And when I ask people, are you writing your thoughts? Are you introspecting? They say, no. I think in my head. And for me, there's no way to figure out what you want truly if you just let me think about it. Oh, I think I know. No, it's the hardest thing in the world. I'll give you an example. I've built what I call value galaxy. It's where you take a blank page and you start putting all your values there, right? And then out of those values, suddenly you see what I call value themes. It's like, wow, I really like self-improvement. And I do that in many different ways. And I love, racing, and I love abstract ideas. I love teaching. I love speaking. I love managing people. I love my investments that I make and make money that buy me the time to do other things. So before you know it, the page is filled with values. And then I aggregate them to value themes. And a lot of the stuff there is things I think I want, but I don't really. I do them just because it's a habit. But if I look at it, it's like, why is it here? Why is it taking time away from me? It doesn't, and this is much more important. And I'm not doing this. I'm not writing my book. I'm doing this instead. And this is not important. And finally, suddenly you see that the way you invest time in things is completely disconnected to the hierarchy of values. What can make you happier? And I thought, yeah, I love racing. But then I thought about, I like specific type of car racing, and all the rest I don't care about. So why am I always saying I love racing? No, I love specific types of cars driving fast in corners in a road course and not the ovals. Ovals, if you give me a free ticket to NASCAR, I won't go. Right? So knowing exactly what you want and why you want it, and then connecting different things, suddenly what I experience is that it's almost like somebody gives you an ability to peek and look into your subconscious, which is something most people never connect with. I think that we're born with some kind of a blueprint, an imprint in our subconscious. And this is why I'm very good at some things and very bad at other things. I love chocolate and not vanilla. It's me. Now, I don't know to open my brain and say, this is why. So the next best thing is to always introspect to see, hey, what just happened? I did react to this. Why did I react to that person? I met that person and I was so excited. What is it about them that I liked? And by the way, if I really think about it, it's the same as my excitement about this person and this person. And so suddenly I can wow, this thing here really loves that. So what if we do more of that? And the beautiful thing is where I make connections between different value themes. For instance, my job at ARI is a result of me connecting things together. Like my story, I think I told you several times, Yaron calls me in 2016 and tells me, I think of stepping down, maybe you would. I'm like, why is he calling me? It's completely irrelevant. No. 2 years later, when I do a deep introspect and I say, love of philosophy, the newly found love of philosophy, abstract ideas, teaching. I always loved teaching and dealing with teaching. I was a CEO of an education company in Israel, and I loved it. It was the best job ever. And Rand's philosophy. So everything in my value galaxy is pointing to that direction, and I don't make the connection that maybe this is a relevant job for me because it's a non-for-profit. Who cares? And suddenly, boom, it's like, okay, I'm going to call Yaron. And before you know it, it's the best job ever. And I think a lot of people just don't see all of those opportunities and passions because they don't develop what I call the valuer muscle. The nose to say, that could be good for me and that person, and I need to invest more time in this relationship. This is, for me, those are the building blocks of happiness.
Let me ask a question here. If I would go and explain these ideas to a colleague at the university or to a student, the first thing they would say is, well, this could only work because he's a rich guy. You have the luxury to do this. Go have this discussion with a builder. Go have this discussion with a farmer, with an immigrant, whatever. They would say this doesn't work. They would say this only works if you have all your material problems solved, and then you have the luxury to introspect. What would be your reply to that?
Read the Fountainhead.
They won't.
For me, I know, but let me say that I think money is one of the greatest distractions ever. I think money it's just confusing everybody. And this is why I actually separate money as a different domain of values. If you want, I can go deeper into, I have more than 10 years of thinking about this. So I actually developed almost like a system. But my answer to those people would be no. The people who need that most are young people. They're all poor. And before they decide if to become a builder, an architect, make money, be a teacher, not make money, somebody needs to teach them how to be introspective enough to understand that the optimization in life is not for money, it's for happiness. And if you don't understand what happiness is made of, you'll make all the wrong decisions. And I have rich friends in my poker table. Last night we played. They all have money. Are they happy? Has nothing to do with how much money you have in the bank. On the contrary, the more you have on your shoulders, the harder it is to see, who am I in all of this? I got my family and my mortgages and my cars and my commitments and my companies and all of that. And before you know it, you're 80 and you're dead, or 90 or 100. And you never asked yourself the question, what do I want? Take all the constraints out, take my mother and my father and their expectations and my culture and my everyone, and ask yourself, should I get married in my 20s? Or should I explore in my 20s? should I take this whole decade to just ask one big question? Is who am I? What do I want? What do I love? Let me put it on paper and prove to myself over time that I know how to answer this question. Says who that who says you need to make $1 million? You're going to be a slave to the $1 million, right? And listen to all of the successful people. What they say when they have all the money is just, it's not the money, right? I would rather be struggling to make ends meet teacher than a billionaire who just hates everything that he's doing and wants to kill himself. And by the way, a lot of them do. It has nothing to do with success and fame and fortune. It has everything to do with an introspective mind that asks the right questions and directs their life. This is how I see it, that your 20s, it's all exploration. Explore, explore, explore. Just taste everything that you can, just to see what you're excited about. And as you do it, make more and more finer decisions to how to direct your life to a point where this is what I love about life. This is worth living. And I can tell you that the answer is within and outside. It's a connection of within you and the outside in your experiences, and a lot of thinking that happens in the middle, but it's there. And all the people that fall into depression is just the collapse of the system saying, you just don't know how to do it. And unfortunately, it's very hard to be a thriving human being. Seriously, I think happiness is a very hard task. This is why so few of us are succeeding in it. And in a perfect world, I think the education system will prepare kids to be happy, to know that they're the center of the universe. There's no one like them. Nobody can tell them who you are and what you love. No, it's for you to discover. And if I was to parent my kids all over again, I would be so, open to have them try whatever they want, as long as they don't endanger their life in running. Just do whatever you want and pay the price for it, if you're making mistakes. But it's you, somebody very dear to me that we all know gave me parental advice. And he said, and it blew my mind when he said it. He said, when your daughter comes with her boyfriend, don't tell her you like him. And I said, why? He said, because that is influencing her ability to judge if she likes him. You need to be so careful as a parent to not lean on them in any way, because all you need to do is to allow them to develop their own decision-making and their own understanding of their own values. And for me, it was like, wow, this is the respect of someone's sovereignty on their own mind and happiness. This is what it means. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, Nikos, but that's the best way for me to explain to someone, don't get confused.
No, the Fountainhead is a good example because Rourke is very poor, at least for half of the book. And at no point he's actually unhappy because he does what he enjoyed. Rucka.
So, Tal, you found Ayn Rand's philosophy later than a lot of people. Usually the kind of more of the stereotypical process is young people find Ayn Rand and are excited by it. And her philosophy is kind of what you could call a promissory note, saying like, here's what your experience will probably confirm if you agree, wait and see. Now you were already an adult, you had a career, you had a family, which is rare. So it was less of a promissory note, the philosophy, and might have served as more of like, here's a code of ethics that complements what it is that you've achieved. So many people have achieved similar things, but they're not enjoying it. And it sounds like you maybe weren't enjoying it to the fullest, but now you're able to enjoy it. That's pretty.
Yeah,
that's pretty nice.
and I would say my approach to Rand's writings was always, what can I do with this? And I find that a lot of objectivists are using it in the wrong way. They just makes them rationalists, as we call it, right? They take it like, oh, now I know, and it's all in my head, and the world is bad, and and I'm not perfect as a Howard Rourke, so they get depressed and they don't know how. No, happiness and what she's telling you is how to live life. And I would rather see my kids read nothing in philosophy and know how to apply themselves in life, rather than, read all day long. It's like, oh, this is how it should be, and then sit on their sofa and do nothing. No, I think the engagement with life is where the rubber meets the road and where you derive your happiness from. And I see a lot of people, by the way, around me that don't need to read philosophy. They know how to live pretty good. They know that their life is the most important thing. They know that what they love is the most important thing, and they don't compromise. Now, do they align with me politically or not? No, but they're happy, pretty happy, and they might even believe in God, versus objectivists who like, oh, I know exactly how it should be, and they're miserable. So what I'm saying is philosophy is like a user manual. You know how you get a new product, you can throw the user manual away and try, and you might be able to actually operate this thing. But it's better if you read the user manual. I think of Rand's philosophy as an amazing user manual. But not everybody has the patience or the, even the desire to go deeper into, it all stems from our epistemology, and that drives our ethics. And it's all about virtue, and what is the virtue, and what is value. Not all people, the way I train my kids, it's no, your life is the most important thing. And I think what led me to be a much happier person than before reading Atlas is that it was always about, how can I be my own version of a Howard Roark? How can I be more like a Dagny or a John Galt? For me, actually, Howard Roark is the idol, because when I get stuck, I can always go back and ask myself and it's not Howard Roark, the architect. It's my version of the Howard Roark in Tal, right? What would he do where there's no compromise, no breachment of any virtue, breaching of any moral code, where I really disregard all of the things that are distracting me, all the constraints and what other people would think and what would they do and how much misery I will have to go through if I stick with my belief. And I would say it's a journey. I'm not there. Nobody should write a book about me yet, no? But maybe.
Well, maybe. I mean, your life sounds interesting. I mean, to discover Ayn Rand as an adult, and then to go on to become like, the leader of ARI. I mean, it's an unusual kind of unusual life. Now, maybe to you, it doesn't seem unusual.
No, it's yeah. Look, if you asked me 4 years ago, okay, if I'll be where I am, I said, there's zero chance that I will be where I am. Just to give you an idea of how blind you can be, even if you read everything and you think you know everything. Only when I really connected deeply, and that is the hardest thing. We can talk about the value or the art of its introspection and what it means and why I think it's a prerequisite for happiness. Only then I could actually put my finger on the things Tal is and wants. And then I think I gained enough clarity and confidence from knowing what Rand offers us to say, let me start taking steps forward. So it was for me, it's a roller coaster of a decade that went from my 40th year to my 50th year. I'm going to turn 51 soon. And I feel like if you paid me an infinite sum of money to be 39 again and tell me, don't read Atlas and don't go through the actually very hard years that I went through after reading Atlas, I would say, no. I want to be exactly where I am right now. And honestly, my passion these days is to share what I've gone through and the skills that I've developed. And I think that's, by the way, a gap that Rand didn't write much about. Let me say what I think about that. Ayn Rand is a Howard Roark. You don't read in the Fountainhead how Howard Roark became one. What was he like a kid? What was he like when he was a teenager? How did he even choose architecture. Most of us mortals are stuck without knowing if we want to be doctors or architects or public figures. It's a mess. And I think because Rand was such an introspective genius, and she tells you in the biographical interviews, I always knew what I wanted to do since I was 8, and but I didn't. And so how do you close that gap? So I think the gap that I'm really interested in, the bridge I want to build, is to say, how do you take a confused teenager or 20-year-old or 30-year-old or 40-year-old or even a 60-year-old from where they are today and build a set of skills to say, okay, who are you? What do you love about this life? Let's put it on paper. Let's validate that what you're saying you want and you love is truly what you love, because there's a lot of second-handedness in everything. Once we extract that out, let's make a plan. What do you need to do in order to invest more time in getting more of this? Yeah, I know it might be, starting a new relationship, changing a career, moving to a different place. Those are hard things. But if you start connecting the dots, suddenly in my experience, people that, I'm advising to, they gain motivation because the level of clarity and confidence is raising. It's like, wow, the only limited resource I really have is time, and it's running out. So I better get on with it and make some tough decisions if I want. And then there's a whole world of understanding of what emotions are and how to deal with the automatic reactions that your subconscious is sending you in order to stop you from changing. Because if you really understand the subconscious, there's a lot of hurdles. And so the whole idea of introspecting and how to understand the nature of emotions, what they are, is what I say, once you know what you want and you start taking the steps forward, then you have another thing to learn, which is how to deal with your subconscious, with your emotions, and how to keep motivated and focused on making progress. Because if you won't make progress, and I don't like the people who's like, oh, I love to fail, just fail all the, no, don't fail, please. Succeed, because only after you're successful, you will be happy. Otherwise, you'll be miserable. Now, I'm not saying that in the process of being happy, you won't fail, but you have to take that risk if you're trying, right?
So one last question from me, Tal. Someone who has watched this and they got inspired, they liked what you say, how can they enter a process where they don't lose this spark in 1, 2, 3, 4 days? So what does a day or a week of a happiness pursuer, let's not say of a happy person yet, but of someone who says, okay, I want to be happy in the same way I want to be fit, I want to be happy. So how does this process in the short term looks like? What are the first steps? So you get up from the couch, as we'd say in fitness. What's the equivalent in happiness?
You take a blank page out of your printer, you put it on your desk, you take a pen, and what I would do to start with is I would put 4 quadrants, and I would say career, relationships, health and rejuvenation, finances or money, wealth. And then I would write down what are my top values in those 4 domains. And I won't explain why those 4 domains, because I think that there's a really good reason. And then look at it. And if you feel confused, what I would do is start writing. I said that my central purpose in life in a career perspective is public speaking. Is it? Do I love public speaking? Let me prove to myself. So then I opened my diary and I was like, do I love public speaking and why? And then just write a stream of consciousness. And at the end of the stream of consciousness, go to sleep, wake up the next morning and read it objectively and say, is that a person that loves public speaking? And either it's like, yes, that's what I love, and it should be number 1. And why am I working in a university if what I want to be is a public speaker? And why do I want to, maybe double down on this, and I want to develop more skills. I want to be the best public speaker in the world. Why don't I watch more courses or put myself on stages, even if there's one person listening? Or you will be confused. And if you feel confused, then I think you need to re-examine by more introspection what it is that I love and try to get proof. Proof for me is I loved it as a kid, or I loved something like that as a kid. I always loved it, and I still can lose myself doing those things. If you don't have to pay me to do those things. That, or things that are like, no, this is a dream. A lot of people are like, no, this is a dream. I can never be like that. Why? Now, you have to be grounded. It's like who you are, how old you are, what kind of skills do you have? Will someone pay you to do this? Do you want somebody to? One of the things I said, why I separated wealth and career, is that they don't have to align. They don't have to. A lot of people don't have to make money just from the thing they love most in life. That is the perfect aim. And if you're 16, that's what you should be going for. But if you're 65 and you're a doctor and you realize, I don't want to be a doctor anymore, but that's what pays the rent and the bills, and I love sculpture. Great. Why don't you go to a half a position in your hospital and go take more sculpture? And nobody, honestly, unless you're you won't make a big living out of selling their sculptures, but that is fine, because remember, it's not about money. It's about happiness. That's for me, getting out of the couch. Get a paper and start writing, start reflecting about who you are and what you want, and connect with yourself. And then out of it, there will be a list of values that you want to pursue. And then it's a whole process of planning and making a real plan on how to go pursue them. And you'll see that once you start moving towards them, you'll experience two things. One is a lot of joy and confidence, and sometimes a lot of anxiety that comes with it. And dealing with anxiety, dealing with the fear of failure, all of those things is something we need to deal with.
Yeah, it seems like childhood excitement towards things often contains sort of clues as to what could be the answers to, the path to happiness. Although as an adult, it's possible, let's say you're into construction or home building, home improvement, that now Home Depot is like your new toy store, and the construction site is your playground.
And then you connect it to the Legos, right? Yeah. Because I always love Legos. I'll tell you a funny story. So I introspect, and years go by, and I call my mother, and it's like, Mom, after a lot of introspection, I love abstract ideas and writing. I love racing, and I love playing the drums. And she said, why didn't you ask me? Because when you were 3 years old, you were banging on the pots. And when you were 6 years old, I couldn't get, the only thing you were interested in is starting playing the drums. And you remembered, you could close your eyes as a kid and guess the make and model of the car that just went by because that's how fascinated you were with cars. I think it's because my father was a mechanic. I was around cars all the time. I got fascinated. And she said, do you remember that in first grade, every Friday at 10 a.m., your teacher would do this social hour where you could read anything you want to the classroom and they would be your audience? And do you remember that you wrote the whole week, poems and plays to read to them? And that was the most exciting. I said, no, I forgot about it. And she said, yeah, you would read it to me and I would give you advice, and you rewrite it and you play that. And you were so excited coming back every Friday, reading those things. Yeah, it's in me, and that's what I'm saying. I think we're born with a specific imprint of a consciousness that we need to then, express in life. And it's an evolved one, right? I don't want to remember the make and model of cars and by listening to them. I want to drive them. So it's an evolution, but the connection between reality and your consciousness is this introspective mind that we need to develop. It's observing. It's like, what's going on here? This is so cool, or I hate this. I talk about values and I talk about black holes. Black holes are things you want to get away from. There are things that are bad for you, people that are bad for you, experience that are bad for you. Why are you around them? By the way, my terminology is black holes and white dwarfs. White dwarfs are those things that you don't like, but you have to do. I have to do my taxes. I have to, some people don't like to go to the dentist. So by the way, it's the introspective mind will say, Tal, you don't like this, but you have to do it. It's good for you. And then my attitude towards those things change. And it changes with the black holes as well. So as I said before, I had to fire half of my family because I realized they're not good for me. They're not a value. It was very hard to train the subconscious mind to say they're not good for me, although you're used to, and there's all kinds of tribal values that you're still, I guess, holding on to, and separating out. And I think the one thing that I'm so proud of is that I was honest enough, had the integrity to realize what's good and not good for me and stick with it. And I paid dear prices. I lost friendships, I lost family, colleagues, and even more things that I don't want to share, but I paid dear prices. I had my own quarry that I was working in the process of becoming who I am.
There's a lot we could talk about. So many things you mentioned that just open a new box that I want to delve into. But so hopefully we'll be able to have you back. We've got some super chats: Robert, Marilyn, Kathleen, Marilyn again, Enric, and Robert again. He was $20. Says, excellent. If it all seems obvious, just think of all the people who use philosophy in general and objectivism in particular not to live well, but to argue, to politic, to complain, to remain complacent and unhappy. Yeah, there's a lot of misapplications or misunderstanding of the purpose of philosophy, right?
It's theory and practice, right? It's theory and practice, and a lot of people forget the practice. There's a practice of living life. People that argue all day. My immediate reaction after reading Atlas is like, I need to fix the world. Let's argue with everyone. But I was smart enough to say, bad strategy, not making me happy, not going anywhere. And I was smart enough to just stop, rethink, who is important, me or the world, me or politics. And I'm not like Yaron. Yaron's passion is like, talk to people about politics. No, I actually love different things. And I was conscious enough to say, my life matters. I don't want to change the world. By the way, I would recommend, what can one do? Read it again. Every time I read it, it makes me like it gets out a really big sigh, because sometimes I just put the world's problems on my shoulders. And then I need to be reminded that it's not mine. My life is going to be over very soon. And I need to ride that bull as hard as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a friend who's passionate about politics, and I told him, so turn it into a podcast or a show or something, make it a job, so you're not just focusing on politics as an obsession that's sort of an end in itself. Over in the non-super chat, Hugh says, I want to be Harry Potter, because like you said, be Howard Rourke, be John Galt. He's saying, I want to be Harry Potter. And Hugh in the chat might be joking, but I think that's actually a very valuable clue. I mean, what can you abstract from Harry Potter and from all these childhood fantasy characters? I mean, and honestly, give me the choice between being Harry Potter. What can he do? I don't know, fly on a broom and wave a wand and turn one thing into another.
Maybe he's brave. That's the thing. Ask yourself, what in that hero resonates with me? Mm-hmm. Do you want to be brave? Do you want to face obstacles and challenges and overcome them? Because you won't be flying on a broom anytime soon. Maybe you want to be an inventor. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, inventing, production of any kind, whatever you're passionate about. If you're into making movies or videos or music or something, art, I mean, you are a magician in a sense. You're creating something, which is way cooler than just waving a wand and casting a spell. So we can definitely abstract from these childhood things that excited us. I want to work for Lego, actually, literally. If any Scandinavians are watching this, get in touch with me. Let's do that. Okay, so
maybe one more thing, Tali, that because this is a passion of mine, I created something that I call the happiness team. I actually posted it on Facebook, but if anyone is interested in learning more about this process, because what I did, I sat down to write a nonfiction book, and the outline kind of wrote itself immediately. But as I wrote the outline, I was thinking to myself, look, this is my experience. I want to actually see that it works. So I started this 4-step workshop, which is called the Happiness Team. If people want to see more detail, it's called myhappiness.team. And you can maybe just register there, and I will contact you.
I thought this was secret. That's why I didn't say anything about
that.
No,
it's not a secret. I think it's fine.
Let me say one thing about the Happiness Team. It could be life-changing if you take it seriously. Specifically, if you want to take one decision and you know it's the right decision, but you don't get this final step, I think the process that Tal describes is going to be super helpful. I don't want to reveal more, but it's worth it, and it's worth it is an understatement.
That was going to be my question. Where should people go next if they want, if they want to sort of learn more and also kind of follow a certain program, so they're not just trying to take this conversation and kind of slam it down onto their life.
Yeah, I was not planning to show it, but if you're so I did create this thing. It's called my Happiness Team. It's a workbook filled with and Nikos has one. It's filled with all of my exercises and the process that I think one should go through. If I were to describe it quickly, there's one page that actually shows it visually. It's a 4-step process that I don't know if you can see it. Maybe, yes. Yeah. It's a 4-step process, and the 4 steps are observation, which is where you get to know yourself and learn how to connect with your subconscious and talk to it and have it reveal to you or show and prove that, those are the values that I want. And then putting the scientist hat on into the analysis stage, which is, okay, what do I have here? What is good? What is mine? What is not mine? And clean it up a little bit, organize it, prioritize it. And then there's a commitment stage where you say, out of all of those things, that's the one thing I want, and I'm going to commit to it. And the thing why I chose to do it as a happiness team and not one-on-one is that I learned it from Barbara Sher. She had the success teams, and she only started with, what do you want? Let's go get it. I'm going 2 steps backwards, and I say, what do you want? Is what you want, what you need, and prove to yourself and commit to it, and then we'll help you. But what she was so right about is that the help of a team is unbelievable. It keeps you accountable, and people are giving you objective feedback on your progress and your commitment and your accountability. So the 3rd step is commitment, and the 4th step is the ongoing one, which is I call pursuit and monitoring. You start to make progress, and as you start to make progress, suddenly unexpected things happen. Objective constraints that you didn't think about, and then emotional feelings, things that you didn't expect. And that's where you really need the support, almost like psychological support, and people reminding you that's what you want. Don't give up. Continue to move forward. We know it's hard. There's a lot of getting adjusted to change and dealing with change and all of the anxiety that comes with it or could come with it. This is why it's always pursuit and monitoring. Should I do it? And then what happened? How do I feel about it? Am I still motivated? If not, why not? And fixing it. And if yes, great, continue to do it. And I think it's a cyclical process, meaning I'm happy to report that some people that went through that workshop just finished 2 cycles of like, here's what I wanted. Now I got it. Here, I want something else, and then trying to get it again. And we should be living this way of always knowing what we want and going after it.
Well, as a student of objectivism, I couldn't ask for better type of figurehead or face of the movement as someone who journals a lot, who really cares about happiness and talks about it a lot. I think this is a very interesting development in the sort of history of the movement, I guess, or the way that the philosophy is seen and perceived. Looking forward to learning more about all of this. I guess we should jump over to Clubhouse now. If any of you have any questions or comments, you can join us on stage. Thank you, Nikos. Thank you, Tal. And
thanks so much, Tal. Thanks a lot.
Thank you guys for having me.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. And for the super chats, please become an Ayn Rand Center UK member. for exclusive content and to help this thing grow. And remember, everybody, sorry, I know it always sounds like I'm going to end it. See you back here at noon California time, whatever that means to you, for the Integrating Investor. And then at 2 o'clock California time, TV Talk. Actually, no, I'm lying. We're skipping it this week. That's next week. Anyway, thank you all and goodbye.
Bye-bye.